made his first address to a joint sitting of the two houses of parliament on the first day of the budget session today, highlighting the achievements of the government in the year gone by and indicating the agenda for the year ahead. The president said that he hoped for a productive parliament session that comes after a rough economic year. In the course of next 60 minutes or so, we look at some of the key takeaways from the president's address, and to discuss the same, we are joined by three distinguished guests in our studios. Please welcome Dr. Subrata Mukherjee, a noted political analyst. Welcome to Insight, Dr. Mukherjee. Sitting next to him is Ashok Dasgupta, deputy editor with The Hindu. Welcome to Insight, Mr. Dasgupta. And we are also joined by Radhika Ramaseshan, a political editor with The Telegraph. Welcome to Insight, Ms. Ramaseshan. I'd like to begin with you. What, according to you, would be the key takeaways from the president's address?
I mean, look, there was a lot of a large emphasis on
Mr. Dasgupta, pretty much on the expected lines, according to you, what would be the key takeaways?
Well, I see it like this, the thing that we should always remember is that the president's address is vetted by the cabinet and then handed over to the president. Now, on the economic side, especially when he talks about that both global factors and domestic factors have affected growth, and we need to address the impact of both. The government has responded to the situation by taking several measures to revive investment activity and investor concern. Now, this has been left pretty vague, because if you get hold of the past address by the former president Pratibha Patil,
right,
she had mentioned about black money and tax evasion, and specifically mentioned GAR, the General Anti-Avoidance Rules,
right,
to stem this. The very act that was enacted by the president, who was then the finance minister, is now being undone, and probably that is why it has been left pretty vague. He has not mentioned GAR or any of these retrospective amendments at all.
Okay, come to the specifics a little later, but before that, we'd like to know, for the benefit of our viewers, how significant is the president's address? We do know it's a statement of government policy, sets the agenda for the year ahead, but what is its relevance?
It's the grace and grandeur of our parliamentary democracy. You see, there are certain very important ingredients to it. For instance, you see that our president is also an elected one, so is our prime minister. But then the processes are different, and within that context, we have to understand a most important differentiation between a head of the state and the head of the government. Now, the policy comes out of the cabinet and with a larger approval of the parliament.
In the program, stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Insight. We are discussing the President's address to Parliament. President Pranab Mukherjee today made his first address to a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament on the first day of the budget session. Ms. Ramaseshan, continuing our discussion, how the government has dealt with presidential addresses in the past is what we'll discuss now. We do know that there are a number of policy targets that are set in every address. In fact, through the president's address in the year 2009, we know UPA 2 had announced a 100-day agenda.
Also an opposition which has been very belligerent throughout UPA 2 also. I mean, there have been disruptions, adjournments galore, etc. Of course, I mean, you can very well argue that it is incumbent on the government to take the opposition along and achieve some semblance of consensus so that important bills are passed. I mean, if I were the Congress, if I were the government, I would indeed be seriously concerned, because this in this parliament session they have listed important bills like the land acquisition,
right,
and also the Lokpal bill and the criminal amendment bill to to make the rape laws, rape law
Prevention of Corruption
more
Act.
stringent, and also amendments in the Prevention of Corruption bill. Now, yesterday we did see that the government is pretty serious about passing some of these bills, at least one of them, one or two of them, when the home closer to the elections, the sessions tend to get stormier and more and more intense.
One of the issues that the president mentioned in his address, and this is one of the issues that the opposition is planning to take on the government with in a big way. The president did say that inflation was easing gradually, but it was still a problem. How big a challenge is this going to be for the government?
Well, I think it's a major challenge because if you might have noticed, the left parties boycotted the president's address,
Right.
and it was due to price rise. And the whole entire country is going through the national Bandh, as they call it, called by 11 central trade unions, and at certain places it has been pretty violent. Now, which is measured by the consumer price index, that is still above 10%. It is 10.79 and nearing 11%.
Right.
Now, that is something which calls for long-term resolutions, in the sense that most of it is due to supply bottlenecks, actual shortages, or whatever. And monetary easing or tightening does not play much of a role in food inflation. In fact, if interest rates are hardened, then the poor get affected more.
Fiscal measures are needed, you're saying?
Exactly. Apart from fiscal measures, administrative measures are necessary to ensure that adequate food stocks are there. Now, but this has affected, when food inflation seeps into manufacturing inflation, it becomes a greater problem. And initially, last year, you must have seen that we went through that phase, and now core inflation, which is mainly manufacturing and all, has come down. So it does give room to the Reserve Bank to ease interest rates to spur growth. But what happened during the previous, during the current fiscal, I would say,